Well, less than 24 hours ago, the Indiana Pacers, with their 18th selection in the first round of the 2017 NBA Draft, made TJ Leaf's NBA dream a reality. Welcome here on Facebook Live. We are welcoming in your questions throughout the next 10 minutes or so. We will keep this interactive. We will forward your questions on to the Pacers' first-round draft pick. TJ, let's go back to that moment less than 24 hours ago. And you've done 10, 15 interviews over the last hour, so we know you've dealt with a lot of questions here. But what was the moment like for you? The first thought that went through your head the moment you got the phone call, heard your name?
Just overwhelmed with excitement, especially having my family there just made it that much more special. I was just very excited, especially hearing it was a place like Indiana. It just made it even that much more special.
As you were doing some of your one-on-ones earlier up here on the stage with some of the TV stations, we looked over and your dad, who of course has Indiana ties, professional ties, he had a flock of media people around him as well. Your dad has ties to Lawrence North, Indiana as well. How did he help you progress when you were young to get to this point?
He helped me a ton. Without him, I wouldn't be the man or player I am today. He coached me in high school, so that definitely had its ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. His overseas game just helped me become unselfish and just helped my IQ a ton.
One of our questions here coming in, it comes from Glenn. Do you pay attention to things like mock drafts? And if so, was Indiana potentially in your future, in your foresight, despite the fact that you obviously worked out here?
I don't really pay attention to them at all. They're all just by, there's so many of them, they're all by, a bunch of different people. So, I try not to just really pay attention to them because, at the end of the day, the draft is going to do what it's going to do, and it's going to be pretty crazy. So, I'm just excited to end up here.
How do you feel like you fit with the roster, understanding that that's going to change with free agency here coming up? I know you've had some discussions with Miles Turner and perhaps a front court of the future.
Yeah, definitely. You look at a guy like Miles. He's so talented, so young, and he's going to be a very impactful player in the NBA. So I'm just really excited to get to work with him and everyone else on the team. Starting next week.
What are some of the things you're looking to improve upon here as you make this transition into the NBA?
A lot of areas. I need to improve in every area, but I think one that stands out is just getting stronger, bigger and stronger. And that's something that's going to happen, but I'm really excited to get in with everyone here, and I know they have a great strength program, so I'm looking forward to it.
One thing that I found interesting, you talk about wanting to get stronger. Rebounding is, of course, a lot of strength, but you had good rebounding numbers at UCLA. Obviously, what is necessary of strength and rebounding in the NBA is at a different level from college, but why do you feel like even though strength isn't a strong point for you just yet, you were able to rebound at a high level in college?
I think I just have a knack for it, and I'm going to try and grab every rebound. No matter who's around, no matter who's there, I'm going to use my positioning and use a lot of different areas to try and get the rebound. And I feel like I'm a very elite rebounder. And as I do get stronger, I think it's only going to develop that.
A question from Facebook Live here that comes from Chris. Is there a player current or past that you compare your game to?
I get that question a lot. I really don't know how to answer it because I've tried to just become my own guy through, watching a lot of games. I've watched any move from anyone, and I try to implement it in my game. That's just how I've always been. I think it just got instilled with me from my dad and brother.
Drew asking, what are some of your interests outside of basketball?
I like fishing and golfing a lot. So, I've done a lot of fishing here, actually, so it helps that I know some fishing spots just in Indy and Evansville and whatnot. So, it's really exciting just being able to come out here now.
So you've got a couple of spots potentially picked out. A player who we've not seen yet here in person, but I know has close ties to you. We saw that video that the Pacers tweeted out yesterday. We're talking about Ike, the second-round draft pick. What can you tell us about him, playing with him, and the kind of player that Indiana was getting with their second-round draft pick?
He's a monster. His arms are extremely long. His hands are huge. He's very young. He's going to be a force in this league for a long time, and I'm super excited. Off the court, me and him are extremely close, and he's just such a good dude. So it's going to be a lot of fun just getting him in here as well and getting to work with him.
We were talking with Coach Alford a couple of weeks ago, and he brought up the fact that while he feels like you can come in right away and make a significant impact, for a player like Ike, he can do that with his strength, but that he's a player that's maybe positioned a little bit more for the future. He has raw skills, maybe wasn't able to impact UCLA quite as much last year, but has a really high ceiling. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think he can come in and help a team, just with his physical attributes. But we had a guy last year at Tom who was a veteran and had been there and done that. So, it kind of held him back, but he was able to go against everyone in practice and was able to get a lot better in practice and whatnot. So, he's going to be a great player for us down the road.
Still taking some of your Facebook questions here. Are you an NBA 2K player?
I play a little bit, definitely. Nothing crazy. I'm more a Call of Duty guy.
Okay. Levi asking, for the 2K that you do play, do you have a player that you like to have on the sticks?
I mean, you want to say LeBron, but it's just not. You can't really pick him because it's kind of a cheat code. So
Same with Golden State. It's made 2K a little bit.
It has. It makes it a little unfair. So you kind of don't pick those two teams.
A couple of questions coming in here, and it's something that I know you've dealt with since being drafted and before. Is playing with guys around you, Lonzo, Bryce, EK, for example. You played with NBA players at UCLA, players that are going to be coming into the NBA. Do you feel like playing with a roster that you were around helps you make that transition, makes that step a little less steep?
Absolutely. I mean, in practice every day, we were all going at it, battling. So, I mean, it almost makes it like, a mini NBA practice. I mean, not nearly that, but I think it definitely helps the transition a lot.
Let's talk about your coach, Steve Alford at UCLA, a name that's very familiar, of course, here to Hoosiers. How was he able to shape you, mold you in the 1 year that you were with him?
He helped me a lot, just becoming a professional on and off the court, my positioning offensively and defensively, and just being a good person off the floor. I mean, he's someone I got along with really well, and he helped me in a lot of areas. So, I mean, if I had to do it again, I would definitely go play for him.
We've had a couple people ask about jersey number. I believe 22.
22 is the one, yeah.
Is there reasoning behind that? Behind the number?
Not really. I've always been it. Kind of random, but I just liked it growing up, and I still like it. So,
as we were reading about you, as you were growing up, you were in junior high. You were 6'3", certainly tall for a junior high player, but you weren't necessarily playing in the post. You were around the perimeter, developing some of those outside skills. This was before the NBA had kind of turned into the way it was, so maybe some foresight on you or your dad's part. But
yeah.
How do you feel like some of that helped transition your game to where the NBA is looking for now?
Yeah, it helped me a lot. I mean, growing up, I was pretty much a guard my whole life. Especially up until, junior high. And my dad always said, if you can do more things, it's just going to make you that much more special. So, when I did start to grow a little bit more, he was just like, yeah, now we can work on your inside abilities and work on those and fine-tune those. And it just really made me into a very versatile player.
A good question here from Mark, talking about the longer NBA three-pointer. You shot the three-pointer in college almost at 50%, one of the main reasons, I think, why you were so attractive to Kevin Pritchard down the line. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like that transition will go with you as you start to step back a little bit to where the NBA three-point line is?
Yeah, it's definitely a difference. But, it also opens the floor up for driving angles for everyone. So, it's going to help, I think. And I'm already getting used to it. I'm already using it a lot. So, I don't think it's going to be a big issue for me just because I'm going to work at it and I'm going to be able to shoot it.
We have time here, I think, for a couple more questions on Facebook Live. If you're bringing them, if you'd like to send those in, we are still taking those now. James asking, goals and expectations for this year. It's kind of a tough question because 24 hours ago you didn't even know what NBA team you'd be playing for, and maybe those aren't set yet. But can you begin to look in that direction?
I think a little bit. I'm just looking forward to getting in with my teammates, getting to work, and just getting better. As myself and as a team, just getting as many wins as we can. I'm looking forward to that.
As you kind of mold here into what the Pacers are looking for you, obviously getting stronger, improving on the defensive end, gaining strength, and obvious how you can accomplish that, but improving your defense, what kind of things will that take?
A lot of just live play. If I'm just guarding guys, like some of the wings on the Pacers, like a guy like Jeff Teague, I think it's going to help my defense and foot speed a lot. Especially, every day going against those guys, it's going to help me tremendously.
All right, we've got time, I think, for one more question. Tim asking, are there any past Pacers players that you looked up to when you were a kid? You moved around a little bit, grew up in Israel as your dad played professionally. Were there any Pacers players from maybe those 90s teams or early 2000s that stuck out to you?
I didn't really watch basketball when I was that young.
Yeah.
So didn't have a whole lot of. I didn't watch basketball up until maybe fourth, fifth grade. So didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge on that until more recently.
All right. Well, thank you to all of us who have been. All of you have been following us here on Facebook Live. It's Indiana Pacers first round draft pick T.J. Leaf. Welcome to Indiana, and look forward to watching you for draft.
Thank you. Appreciate it.